Hello, Rose.
Hey, hi, nice to see you.
You too. You moved your room around, or you moved your
Yeah,
desk?
I just moved because I'm so tired of being in the dark when I speak to you in all the videos. But I don't know, there seems to be like a blue purplish tinge going on. So
Oh, that's
yeah,
nice.
I just turned the chair a bit so that the window's sort of more behind me. It seems to help.
Yeah. Anyway, how are you doing?
Hello, I'm good. I'm on a roll today. And I want to tell you before you even ask me, I'm a fucking 9 today.
Yay. Yeah. See, we planted that little seed and it
Oh
grew.
my lord, it's grown into a big fucking tree with roots.
Oh, nice. Nice. Oh, tell. So what's been going on?
I don't really know. I was thinking about it earlier in the kitchen. I was thinking, I don't know where all this magic came from, but something's happening. I think it's all your fault, as in you've done all this higgery jiggery pokery magically stuff on me that just seems to, I don't understand why it's working, why I'm absorbing it, but it is. Whatever it is, it works for me.
Yeah.
Um, and it started before the weekend. I knew I was going to be really busy at work at the garden centre, and it was heaving. You wouldn't
Mm.
ever think it was lockdown. The sun was out and it was heaving. And before I went to work, I thought, you know what? I just can't bear the thought of going into the day and thinking, oh, it's going to be so busy.
Yeah.
Saturday and Sunday, I thought I need to change my attitude about it. And what if? What if I was focused and energized? And what if I wasn't that judgmental about why people are there? What about if I gave everyone the benefit of the doubt and maybe they really need to be there instead of me scowling underneath my mask where nobody can see me and hating everyone? And I just thought I can't bear the thought of going in and just wishing the day over
Yeah.
so that I can get home and relax and not have to deal with customers or not be so cross because everybody's there and they shouldn't be.
Yeah.
Um, and that was a real that was a real shift. It was lovely and I just enjoyed my day more. I was a bit stressed out before I got there because I knew we were going to be super busy. We're low on staff and how I'm going to handle that. And I decided I was going to take conscious breaks, just in my head, to stop, ask myself how I'm feeling, feel it, breathe, think about what I could do to make it easier on myself. And sometimes that was just slowing down.
Mm.
Sometimes was drinking water, sometimes was just talking to my colleague. So the day just wasn't as stressful and I enjoyed it far more than I thought I would. And I mean, we were very busy and I was very tired, but it was good. And then I treated myself to a hot bath with the candles on,
Oh.
listening to, I don't know if you've heard of Sibling Revelry podcast, Kate Hudson and Oliver Hudson, Goldie Hawn's kids.
I was going to say Kate Hudson, the actress. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So her
Oh.
and her brother Ollie do this podcast where they interview other siblings. Oh my God, it is so interesting. It is so good. So I listened to that and I especially set it up, making the time and the effort and thinking what would a 9 want and what do I want and prioritizing my needs.
Mm-hmm.
And I set the bathroom up for that, especially bought candles a few months ago, but I hadn't used them.
Mm.
Yeah. So
Mm.
that was the start of it. And this thing of asking, how would a 9 feel? What would it feel like? And what would I do?
Mm.
Just prioritizing my needs more, I think, and asking for what I want. And it's really interesting because I've spoken to you about this before. Chris never says no. He's not the one stopping me. I'm the one stopping myself.
Yeah.
I'm the one who's decided in my head, this is too much effort and it can't happen. Um, and it's being just everything seems easier because I'm asking for what I want or for what I need.
Uh-huh.
you know, is for him to, I don't know, do the goats in the morning or feed them, or like today. I mean, I haven't even washed. Well, actually, I did wash my face. I've got no makeup on. Hair looks like this. I'm in loungy clothes because I wanted to wake up, get to the computer, and get writing. So I just said, "Can you feed animals?" And he said, "But of course."
Mm. Mm.
Who knew it was that easy? So I came and I just sat down here and I got started with my day.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so interesting working with you because I've said this I think last time when we got to this point. So Tuesdays is our kind of like I have a topic in mind day, and
Oh yeah, it's Tuesday, isn't it?
It's Tuesday today.
Oh man, I was thinking,
no!
Or is it Friday? No, it's Tuesday.
Friday's when you get to sit in the chair.
I knew that. Okay.
But what's interesting is you get to the point where before I introduce it, because what today was going to be about was about assumptions and second guessing.
I could do with hearing about that, all of that.
Well, you really just described it is, you know, a lot of the anxiety we cause for ourselves, you know, these habits that we create are because we think we're so intuitive, you know, and I'm not saying we're not, you know, and gut feeling is great and intuition is great. And I rely on it heavily. I'm not ever saying jettison any of that, but it is quite common to have this tendency to make an assumption about what someone is thinking, doing, going to say, going to do, why they're going to do it, why they did do it. And, you know, it just comes back to stories that we, you know, really, that we tell ourselves.
And I can see now, I'm beginning to see now why those assumptions or me deciding would be not always right or often wrong. And that's also because we're basing it on how we were previously, previous preconceptions. Whereas, you know, you teaching me to rewrite the brain and the neural pathways. So setting something new in stall so that when I try second guess, at least I'm second guessing on something a bit more positive and constructive than, you know, all my second guessing is based on old pathways that I don't know if they served me then, maybe they did, but I definitely need a sort of new roadmap.
Yeah. And I mean, they served you in as much as, you know, that's what they're designed to do. Of course, there's never anything deliberate in our psyche that says, ooh, let's trip you up. You know, that's not what it's set up to do. It always thinks it's acting in your best interests, based on the information we give it. But our brains do something that's completely brilliant and remarkable, but at the same time is also an Achilles heel. And it's that shorthand that it creates of, you know, instead of going from A to B to C to D to E to F to G, it goes, oh, hang on a minute, I've seen this, A, that's G of that, right, okay, and it just like makes up B to F. And, you know, 9 times out of 10 it does a really good job of that. But we rely on it as fact, and it isn't fact. It's just a useful shorthand.
I suppose because it worked once or twice and it was the right answer for a couple of things, now it seems to think that's the answer for everything.
Precisely, because it was, you know, it was engineered. It works effectively in a physical environment. So if it knows that, you know, every time you came out of the cave and turned left, you know, you would fall into a hole because there was a hole there and there's brambles on the right, it's going to short code that and go, okay, don't go that way because I've already figured it out. There's no point.
Yeah.
And so in our physical environment, in that kind of physical environment where things change slowly, you You know, you didn't have people digging up roads or building things, and we now use that not just for our physical world, of course, which does change like moment by moment, but also for our relationships, our emotions, for what people are going to say, what they're going to do.
For constant new information the whole time, isn't it?
Yeah. And of course, the thing is, where it gets overcomplicated is that our shorthand is second guessing someone else's shorthand, which is second guessing our shorthand.
Which is all just based on, oh my God, that's not even watertight, is it?
No.
Can you give me 1 second? I just want to check. I was convinced the cat had used her litter box, but not.
Okay.
Sorry, I just thought I can't concentrate if I think she's used her litter box.
Oh no.
But that makes sense, and I like the thing of you saying, you know, our second guessing is based on someone else's second guessing. I relate it to, you know, how we spend so much time on our phones and everything's text message, although that's going to voicemail now, but you can't really know what somebody truly means unless you speak to them and you hear it from the horse's mouth and they explain it in a way you understand. So many, I do it with Chris, even in the house, he says something, I say something, and we like bang, and that's not what he meant, but I heard that. Yeah, we need to be clearer, I suppose.
And yeah, we do, but it's very difficult because we're also working on a premise that does go back to those old pathways that you were describing earlier, of when we're children, like the most literate we are emotionally is by reading expressions and tones and inflections. And we get very good at it. We are good at it. You know, as human beings, we're good at it. And that's how we have to start learning. So we'll be interpreting everything based on, you know, did my mother, like when she looked that way, like that means like X, Y, Z. And when she looks this way, it means something else. And when her voice does that, it means something different. And we're all familiar with that. But then we extrapolate and we superimpose it on situations and people with no understanding of what's going on in their world at the time that they're doing it. And neither have they. You know, you could easily, if you're in the wrong frame of mind, like you're busy doing something and someone says something to you and you say something in the words, there's nothing wrong particularly with the words, but your expression could relate to the thing that you're doing that has nothing to do, but someone sees it and their brain is connecting with all the facial expressions that they've ever seen, and they go, oh, you know, I'm in trouble or whatever.
Absolutely misconstrued.
Yeah. And so you were doing that with the garden centre, only you were doing the brilliant thing of going, hang on a minute, before I go, let me just replay, what is the story I'm telling myself about going to work at the garden centre? And you brilliantly thought, okay, that's not the story I choose to tell. So because had you gone in, you'd already realised, had you gone in with the story that you'd started with, you would have loaded and projected that story onto every conversation and every
action.
So you changed the story, and I'm sure I will have mentioned it before, and if I haven't, it doesn't matter to mention it again. Brene Brown. Have you ever read any Brene Brown or ever?
Oh, I love her. I love her. Yeah.
So have you read Dare to Lead?
I think that's the one I've got. Yeah.
It's worth rereading, and I always think I should make a note of the page because it's a perfect story. And she tells the story and she's relating it to her relationship with her husband. And she's frustrated because she's taken on too much. She's got all these projects that are going on. She's writing a book, doing she's just got loads going on. And she openly says, I keep going, oh, I can do that. I can do that. I can do that. I can do that. and then suddenly goes, oh fuck, I
I
can't do this.
can't.
So she's at home on her own, surrounded by all this paper, getting really frustrated. And he comes home and, you know, he's been busy at work, and he says, is there any ham in the fridge? And she goes off on one, like, boom.
Yeah.
And, you know, gives him every barrel she's got with her interpretation of what that meant.
Mm.
And eventually, it gets to a point where he just goes, I just wondered if we had any ham in the fridge. I wasn't insinuating that it was your job.
Absolutely.
But
Yeah.
she tells the story so brilliantly. You can just see yourself in every
Yeah.
line of the text. And so she shares a really powerful technique. And I've used it from time to time. Sometimes you forget.
Mm.
But in a relationship, sometimes when you become aware of, well, hang on a minute, my hackles are rising, you know, I'm reading something into that thing you just did or said,
Mm.
that you start what you're going to say with the story I'm telling myself about what you said, did, is
Yes.
this. Because it gives them an opportunity to go, and you'll listen. There's a powerful thing that happens when you use this technique, which is just so inspired. It's just brilliant. I wish I'd come up with it myself. But it gets you to listen, because it comes from the perspective of, here's what I'm hearing.
Mm.
What we normally do in situations like that is we don't launch from what I'm hearing. We launch from what you're doing.
Yeah.
And the minute, like, so we go into attack mode. Even
It's always about you made me feel, or you did. Yeah.
Yeah. What did you mean when you said that? And the minute we go into you, someone goes automatically onto the defensive.
And so, yeah.
And so then we get caught up in, you know, they're telling you what you did or think or are, and vice versa. And it's like ping pong at best, and a full-blown war at worst. Whereas the minute you go, the story I'm telling myself about what just happened is, someone goes straight into listening mode.
I like that.
Yeah.
That's really powerful.
It's really good. And it feels artificial to try it if you've never done it before, but it really does work.
Do you know that before my hysterectomy, when I was still having my periods, I was better at stopping myself flying off the handle, because it was easier to recognize once a month. I'd be fine, although Chris swears I was fine for 1 week a month. He's probably right, and the rest of the time I wasn't. But I could recognize quite easily when I was feeling unreasonable. I would start to get, especially towards the end, I think my hormones were changing, I'd become very angry in my head with him. I'd want to bite his head off or chop him with an axe. And I would realize that that's not a, normal reaction. That might be a little bit inappropriate and kind of overblown reaction to whatever he was saying or doing. So I would just keep quiet. I would stop and wouldn't say anything. But I think since the hysterectomy, and I think for a few months after the hysterectomy, I was still in waves, and I was still a bit off center monthly, and they say that can happen. And now I can't be sure when it's going to happen, because it's not really reliant on that anymore. And I have been just attacking. Yeah. you know, we both are ourselves to each other, but we apologize, you know. I will happily say, I'm so sorry, you know, I was an arsehole, and he will do the same, and we recognize that we are. But this might be a new technique that I can try so that I can still say it, because I can't seem to catch myself stopping it, but I can still say it, but with this is how I'm interpreting it, which would be helpful for both of us.
It would be, you know, because he'll learn. I mean, that's the thing, is when we change, you're already noticing this, I'm sure, when we change what we do, it changes what they do.
Yeah. Or he has something to either copy or to react against in a different way.
Yeah. The thing I was going to say, when you realised it, when it was part of a menstrual cycle, although that was, in some ways, you know, that was a good way of managing an emotion. I'm not actually a huge fan of managing emotion. It's just a personal thing. But that was great that you did that, because you kind of protected him from what you recognized was, oh, hang on, hormones.
Being unreasonable, yeah.
But you were feeling it nonetheless. And so I do think we still don't feel quite comfortable in feeling that it's acceptable to actually share what we're feeling.
Absolutely. And now as we speaking, and I probably did realize it at the time, I was having to stuff it down because I couldn't trust myself. I knew I couldn't trust myself to say what I was going to say because it was so disproportionate. Because I knew it was disproportionate to what was going on. But, you know, in hindsight, it would have been interesting and worthy to unpick. Whereas now I feel I can do it with this Brené Brown technique of, you know, the story I'm telling myself, what I hear is X, Y, Z. I feel like that's the next step. It's lovely.
Yeah, it is. And you know, when you were stuffing it down, you know, you're giving it to you. You're giving the anger back to yourself, which is never a good thing. And one of the things I've also learned that you may or may not discover is sometimes I think, especially women, because we get these hormonal rages, to go back to the shorthand, you know, the assumptions that we make, we kind of consign everything that we feel in those moments as not relevant, not valid, because...
Absolutely. We don't validate them at all.
But sometimes what we're feeling is valid. And when you start to unpick it, you go, actually, I was justified in being angry in that moment.
Absolutely. I love this. I'm feeling so empowered and visceral. I can really feel this conversation resonating with me. And I really feel that it's the next step of validating what I'm feeling, and whether it's wrong or right, or I shouldn't be angry or I shouldn't feel whatever. It is how I feel. And I want to convey it and explore it. I think that's definitely the next step.
And I think it's lovely, because when you start to do it and you say that the story I'm telling myself is I'm angry because, sometimes what you discover as you allow yourself to express it is that you actually weren't angry with what the person did. You're angry with something else completely. But you got to explore it to discover that, you know.
Do you know, I did a bit of that on the weekend because of the work that I do with this woman in the States. I don't know where she is, Massachusetts or something. There were various times during the day, instead of waiting for a meltdown or something dramatic to happen, that I would feel myself, I would ask myself, what am I feeling? And I allowed the feelings of, I felt frustrated because we were so busy and people were out and it's lockdown. And instead of denying that and pushing it way, because I said I was just going to go have a great day or whatever. I thought, no, I'm just going to accept that that's how I'm feeling. And it was fine to feel that. And it wasn't going to kill me, destroy me, ruin my day. But it was quite good to be able to feel that. And then later during the day, I asked myself, how am I feeling? And my knees were really sore because we were on our feet all day, or my left knee was. And I thought, well, I'm just going to admit it to myself. I'm just going to accept that my knees sore. And it's quite interesting, because when you don't stuff those feelings down, when you accept them and just feel them, they almost dissipate on their own. The sting is taken out of them. You know, it seemed obviously, and we do know this, and I've always known this sort of logically, that, you know, the more you stuff down your feelings, they kind of become a bigger monster. But I suppose I'm just feeling I'm more aware, in tune of the opposite of that, that allowing them somehow has this magic thing that just allows you to function better, easier, have more clarity if you accept the feelings.
Yeah, yeah. And if you remember when, I think it was last week, when we talked about did I use the phrase emotional navigation when I was talking about insignificant moments of joy, or did I bring that in earlier?
You probably did, and I can't remember. It sounds familiar.
It might not have been last week, but I normally talk about emotional navigation. If I talk about it at all, I'm usually talking about it, you know, when you're in that stage you were in earlier, that you're fortunately coming out of, where it's using the pleasurable activity like the pottery, like the sewing, to get your brain to start putting down those markers of something better, something different, without having any idea what the hell that is right now. And that's using positive feelings to stimulate the emotional navigation of the new pathway. But there's also the corollary, which is still stimulating you moving forwards. But once you're ready again to be able to deal with the less comfortable emotions, then they're still serving the same purpose. They're still emotionally navigating you, and they're part of the navigational toolkit. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. It does. Because that's accepting all parts, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they are always intended. So I said it, you know, we know our subconscious doesn't purposely sabotage us. All of those uncomfortable emotions, they keep coming up, because really they are just like their hands up in class going, I need
hello, some attention over here, please.
And we keep ignoring it and ignoring it and ignoring it. And yeah, fortunately, you know, it doesn't stop. It won't stop, because until we pay attention to it.
Yeah. I read somewhere today, because I was looking at some stuff online while I was writing the material, and I read this article. This woman wrote about anxiety, and was very similar to some of the stuff that we've done, that you know, anxiety before, for instance, a presentation, you know, how do you view that word? How do you see that word? Can you put another twist on that word? And maybe that anxious feeling of, you know, heart fluttering or whatever can be excitement instead of what's to come, instead of doom and gloom. Yeah. And I've completely forgotten how that links into what you were saying, but that's menopause for you.
Do it all the time. Yeah.
All the time.
But I'm glad you said it, because it's reminding me of another thing that I meant to say about the emotional navigation. So you've got the lovely things that you do are putting down the markers of where you want to go. And the uncomfortable emotions are a little like they're helping you create the path and kind of and get clear on where that path is, because they show you where the wrong turns are. It's like, no. Because if you imagine, it's like you've got these two quite disparate markers, and you might wander off in this direction. So the uncomfortable emotion is the one that's going, no, you're going the wrong way. Come back.
Yes, bringing your attention to the fact that something is going on and you need to address it.
Yeah, so the main GPS that you want to put in
Yeah,
is your lovely colourful
it's the
marker.
lovely stuff. Yeah.
But you've got, you know, if you like, do you ever use Google GPS, which is so much better than all the others? Maybe you
I
do.
use Waze usually.
Google GPS, I don't use it all the time, but it's lovely because it's in real time, picking data up from satellites. It will show you where the traffic build-ups are while you're traveling there.
Okay, so it's all real time.
Yeah, and it will create new routes for you to the destination. It, you know, and it will say, oh, you know, you'll see there's a big red line that says there's a hold up between here and here. Do you want to carry on this way, or you could go this way and you'll get there quicker. Those uncomfortable emotions are like the versions of that. They kind of will bring you back. They still know what the destination is that lovely marker, but they're working together with it instead of what we have traditionally done is we followed the negative markers and they take us way off track instead of interpreting them as what they're telling me is don't go down that one, come back, don't go down that
I
one.
suppose because we're not taught about that. We're not taught about uncomfortable feelings or fear or failure or whatever. We're taught to, whether it's conscious or not, we're taught to ignore all of that stuff.
Well, because
we never learn how to deal with it.
No, because we get called a good girl or a good boy, don't we? Good girl it means you're compliant.
It just means you're compliant. It just means you're doing what somebody else, usually an adult, wants you to do, and that's it. Yeah. Compliant, not using your own brain, not using your own navigation system, not using your own thoughts or ideas or inspiration or anything. I hate that whole good girl, good boy thing.
Me too. Yeah, my book is full of that. I'm sure that'll go down really well.
Oh, good.
Yeah,
we need to know, adults need to know it, and teachers need to know, parents need to know. There isn't, good boy, bad boy stuff. Well, I'm learning to address the not so good stuff, and I know, it's quite funny. One of my triggers or markers, I haven't done it for a couple of years, but I mean, I've been self-employed since 2008, and up until maybe 2 years ago, I'd have a little panic every 2 years and think, oh my God, I need to find a proper job. And then, especially since I qualified as an OT and I'm not working as an OT in the NHS environment, because that's what you're supposed to do. And so every 2 years I'll panic and think I need a proper job, and I'll go online and I'll look for work and I'll apply. And all the time I feel quite sick doing it. And my whole body will be resisting, and I'll be so unhappy. And there's no ways in the world I could force myself to do it, because that is just my body knowing before I know that that's not what I want to do, and I've chosen self-employment, which has all its own weaknesses and failings and no security and all of that, but I take that any day over doing a job I don't want to do, doing 9 to 5, doing, what I'm supposed to be doing, good girl, which I see in my eyes as, good girl stuff. Other people's opinions of what you should or shouldn't be doing. But luckily, the older I get and the more in tune I am, the more I physically react to something when something's not right for me.
Which is great if you're listening to it,
if you're listening to it, and and it's taken practice, and I've still got a fair way to go. I still push down things, and I know, I find it so hard to admit sometimes in my head to myself that this isn't what I want or isn't right, and I still carry on because I think I ought to. So I suppose it's a lifelong learning, and it gets easier or better the more you do it.
You're right. There'll always be something that comes up that challenges you to revisit, that you'll drop back
Yeah.
into an old habit. But you know what's really nice, just bringing us back to where we are in this particular program, is we're at the halfway point, and you know I've said to you all along, your journey is unique to you. You're not going to be the same as anybody else. We travel your journey. But what's really neat is, because I always have in mind, like if you get to a point where you feel like, oh, you know, I'm a 9 or a 10, what we do from then, instead of kind of trying to get you on the path that you want to be on, we start going, okay, now we start, where you use that lovely example of, you talked about your tree with its roots. Now we start to look at what's on the branches, you know, where are the roots going, what's growing on the tree, what fruit is it?
I love it.
And so
that's so exciting.
Yeah, so we kind of use the same sort of tools, but we start to look at, rather than, you know, pulling you, no, not down that road, Rose, come back. Yeah. We just go, okay, so which path are you choosing, and just embedding it and strengthening it.
I love it. And all the embedding and the strengthening, that's the stuff that I'm really enjoying about this program with you, is that we revisit things, you know, you don't just touch on a subject and we never hear about it again. It comes back, because everything's really connected.
Of course,
you know, you can't talk about one thing without another. And I like the revisiting, and I'm assuming, I think I've always worked better that way, but I'm assuming as well, because of the menopause and the fact that I don't retain information, I need repetitiveness and enforcing and laying down, you know, paving slabs.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that. Yes, in part, but you know, is it to do with menopause? Or, you know, I've come to see,
I blame everything on the menopause. That's what Chris says to me, and I agree with him.
I've come to see, you know, not when I was in the middle of it, and I'm sure not when you were in the middle of the nightmare of it, but coming out the other side of saying, oh, actually, this has been, when coming out of it and through it in the right way, is just the golden opportunity to finally do what you wanted to do in the way you want to do it, without feeling guilty about it, and actually choosing that.
God, Shirley, I love that. That's so powerful, that menopause isn't the problem, it's just the prompt to, and luckily we have it. I suppose men have menopause as well. It's just the prompt to take stock and to finally do what it is you want to do.
Yeah. I mean, I almost feel like it's a bit like, you know, those of us that get into the menopause anxiety state, it's that we've been banging down the molehills and thinking that we're succeeding doing that for decades, and then menopause finds us out. It's like,
God, yes.
Yeah. it goes, haha, you can't do that anymore. And we go, no, but I need to, because our whole life is structured on banging down molehills, and it just unravels because we can't fucking do that anymore.
God, you know, that just makes me feel so grateful for menopause and my anxiety. And I'm like, yes, thank you, because, you know, maybe I wouldn't have got to where I am now already, even halfway through the program. I feel so empowered and accomplished and better at, you know, just a better me. And if menopause hadn't held up the mirror to show me how bashing down those molehills, you know, you can do it for so long, and then menopause stands up and says, for fuck's sake, no much longer, no longer.
Yeah. But you've been brave enough to look in that mirror and go, whoa.
I almost feel like it wasn't even it's not even a thing of brave enough. It was really a sink or swim. I had to do something, otherwise I was going to go mad. There's no ways I could continue like I was. And of course, only you know that for yourself, you know, to the outside. You know, Chris said to me at the time, are you sure you want to spend all that money? You don't know her, you don't know the program. And I had to trust my gut. You know, I signed up with you, the first and only conversation we had, something just felt right. So, and and to other people, well, everyone's got their own journeys, I suppose. I'm thinking of my girlfriends that either are avoiding it or don't seem to have the same issues I have. But if I think of it, all of them could do with this. We're all getting to that stage where we are tired and something has to give and something has to change, and we want to put ourselves first for the first time.
I think the women that struggle the most, that won't, how do I put this? So women like us, if you like, are women that have always wanted more, always felt like something wasn't quite right with the world or the way we were
always known it,
behave in
always
it.
known it, yeah.
Always been out of kilter and trying to fit ourselves into some bloody box that we know we don't really fit in. And I think that's why we get that whole sink or swim thing. And I think women that maybe don't get that have kind of been more at ease with. They're not really too worried about whether they're trying to fit in some box. They kind of they were okay with it.
It's so interesting, because are they really okay with it?
Well,
or do they just not have the same wants and desires that we have, so it doesn't affect them in the same way? You know, just talking to you now, I could feel it. I had tears coming up. I was feeling quite emotional. I grew up in South Africa during apartheid, which I just knew in my soul was wrong. And I couldn't explain it from when I was like, I'm sure from the day I was born, I knew it was wrong. So I grew up with that. I grew up in a very strict Christian family with my dad. I mean, he used to say the words, I'm Lord and Master of the house. He actually believed that shit. In a very patriarchal family and country governed, you know, everything about South Africa was so male dominated, very strict, very authoritarian. Women didn't have a voice in the wider world, in the wider country, but also within my own family. Fuck, man, and I always knew it was wrong. I always knew it was wrong. I've always wanted more. Yeah, and that's wanting more involved being my own person, not working 9 to 5. It meant being self-employed. It meant not getting married till I was, 48. You know, I never thought I'd get married because, you know, men and authority and stuff. I mean, kudos to Chris. I can't believe, I said to him, I think I said that last night or the night before. I just said to him, I'm so glad I said yes, because sometimes I'm still amazed that I did, because I never thought I would ever want to get married, ever. And that was because of my parents, because of the country, because of the whole patriarchy and stuff. But all the time knowing that I'm like a square in a peg, or a peg in a square, whichever way it goes, and never ever fitting. And now as I get older and I'm learning more, reading more, and I know it's all because I never had a voice, because I'm stronger, I'm capable of what everybody, you know, the country, the upbringing thought at the time I was. We're capable women of so much more. And we don't have to fit into certain boxes.
So now's the time, like in the coming weeks, we start looking at shaping things on.
Love it. Oh, I'm going to have to do a little dance. Do you know, this morning, I think I'm realizing I'm quite a, because I've been looking at, when I had to give the talk last week on creativity, and I was looking at different teaching methods and learning, and you get this thing, it's school teaching method called VARK. So it's either visual, auditory, reading and writing, or kinesthetic. And I realize I'm so I'm visionary, definitely reading and writing, but also kinesthetic. I need to move. I'm absorbing information better. Maybe that's why I move so much. I don't know. And this morning I wrote this whole thing about what if, and I ran around the house shouting it from the rooftops and giving speeches and doing my arm like this and saying it loudly. And I just thought, oh my God, I hope Chris doesn't walk in or anything. But it really worked and got me jacked up, like, you know, Rocky before a fight or something.
Yeah, brilliant.
Yeah, I think I need to, when I say things, I need to move.
Nice.
God, I must be on the spectrum or something. I've always thought there's something slightly off kilter with me.
No, I don't see. You know, you're just discovering what works for you and go and you know, you're stopping the whole clamping down. You're just going, well, this works for me, running around and.
Yeah, because there isn't just one way to do anything, and I'm learning that we all learn differently, we want differently, especially the learning and applying and what we need is different, and we need to know what we need.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I'm learning what I need.
And you know, you taking that energy into your training as well is just going to make it even better for everybody, because you know, if there's anything the English need but afraid to kind of do, it's like actually be expressive and you know,
so anal and formal.
Yeah.
Not all, but
yeah, they're there. It's like, oh, it's okay, we can do this, which is why we wait till we're drunk, most of us. Like, that's why we do. Oh, I was drunk.
It's so true. I've managed to do a lot of things since I stopped drinking. I can dance at weddings. I can be the first one on the dance floor. I can go into a pub and order a pot of tea. Have no problem about it, especially when the bar staff have snarky remarks. I can give as good as I get. Yeah, nice. Absolutely. I don't need alcohol for that anymore.
Good. But yeah, most people do.
Yeah. So yeah, no, I think, and I'm excited about the I'm doing it on Monday, Tuesday. Oh, that's what I forgot to ask you. So the next 2 Tuesdays, they can't move the training, and they're doing it at 4 o'clock.
Okay.
From 4 till 6.
Well, given it's just us, I don't have a group to move.
Yes, thank God. That's what I was thinking. I'm very aware, though, that you are busy and you've also writing your book, and I didn't want to stress you out or dive into your time.
The book's close to finishing. I sent the manuscript, but it needs editing. But it's
no ways. You finished?
Well, nearly. I finished it, as in it's gone for them to look at, but there's a lot of tidying.
Yeah. But hey, that's amazing.
Yeah, I know. But you know, I'm in that kind of.
No. You got to own that achievement, girl. You got to come on. You got to. That's you know. Call it a small or big achievement. You got to own that shit. That is one step closer to where you want to be.
It's a big step closer. You're right. I just want to get to that point where I'm happy. Like, I'm looking at it now, printed here with all kinds of edits all over it, and that's before the editors touched it. So.
Well, that's the process.
Yeah, it is. Right, so where are we today? We are on the 2nd. So what you're saying is the next 2 Tuesdays?
Yeah, so I can do earlier during the day if you want to keep it on a Tuesday. Or I can go get, where's my phone? I'll go get my phone if you want to change the date, because the training is at all different times during the week. They haven't made it 4 till 6 every day. I get my phone. Oh, it's right here. Of course it is.
Oh, I tell you what, if you're free, because you're delivering the training, aren't you?
I am.
Yeah. So you need some space before that to just
beforehand. Yeah.
So what about 1 o'clock?
Oh my God, that would be awesome if you could.
Yeah, we'll do that because I haven't.
Oh, Shirley, I appreciate it, and I'm sorry. I tried to get them to change it. I was a bit cross that they just booked it in without telling me, but unfortunately, because of stuff that they've got that day,
Yeah, we can move it. That's fine.
they couldn't.
So it's on. So I'm just make sure I'm changing the right day. So on the 9th.
So the 9th and the 16th.
Yeah, we'll change to 1 o'clock.
1 o'clock, and only those days. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh my God, in my calendar, I can see we're getting to the end. Oh, I don't like that. It's all on one page. in my little online mobile calendar. I'm like, you know, we're there and that's where we finish, and I don't like it.
No. Well, we'll sort something out if you're still feeling like you need it. We'll sort something out.
Definitely. Okay, so Shirley at 1.
By the way, I had forgotten. Well, I hadn't forgotten. Yeah, I had kind of forgotten the book, but I've ordered you another of those books, so it'll come maybe tomorrow.
Thank you. And I had a thought. I think I want you to write another book and do a journal, because I like the questions and stuff in here, but you know, it's not bespoke for this program that we're doing. And I think it would be helpful to have a journal
for this program. Yeah, okay.
With the prompts that you use, like what would an 8 feel like, or what if, or all those magic momenty things. I just thought, yes. Yeah.
All right, that'll be good.
Yeah, just to add to your workload. And if you don't do it, I'm going to just photocopy one and make a temporary one in the meantime. But because I bought another journal, but I'm realizing now, not all journals are created equally, and just like the hypnotherapy, you want it to speak your language the way you speak. And some of the stuff,
well, I'll tell you what, if you want, when we get to the end of this, I'll trade you if you help me, you know, because you're on the receiving end, you know what would be most helpful, way better than I will. So if you like, if you're happy to do this, your trade, like you give me an outline of the kind of thing you think would be helpful.
Absolutely.
I'll
look at it.
Do you a session, a bonus session.
Yay, we're never going to end. But yeah, that sounds because I'm not even sure what it is I want, but I just know I want more of when I sit down in the morning. Some of these questions are fine and but I just think there's other very more specific things to this program that would be useful.
And you've been really good at taking notes, so I suspect if you go back through what you've done, you'll be able to pick out the ones that you found helpful in the book that you've got, and the ones that you think would be better to add in.
We'll definitely do that.
And then I can get that done, because the next project I'm planning is with a guy who his business is I'm Not Done Yet, so he's focused on the over 50s who get made redundant and lose their jobs, but they're still valuable and
nice,
businesses. But he and I are talking about doing a book together. So that'll be.
Oh, that's exciting. How much stuff is there out there for the over 50s?
Not a lot.
Because people realize now, you know, we're not as ageist as we used to be. It doesn't shock me that someone is 50 or 60 and setting up their own business. Okay, maybe I'm a bit more open-minded about it, but I think we are far more, not accepting, but we realize more that 50 plus isn't really a reason to stop.
Well, yes, in the entrepreneurial space, but in the workspace. So what his audience is people that have been quite happy in that corporate space, functioning quite well, and suddenly it gets to a point where they're disregarded, like they're not made redundant, written
Made
off.
invisible.
Yeah, written off for promotions. You know, and I'm aware, not just through the work that I do, but, you know, if I take an example, which I may or may not have shared with you, certainly talked about on a podcast with someone that runs a magazine in Australia, how, if you try to find, maybe you do this in your training, if you ever try to find an image of a woman of our age in any of the photo libraries, we don't exist. We just
That's interesting. I've
don't
never
exist.
thought of it consciously, but I know it. Yeah.
Yeah. You can have as many photos as you like of anyone under the age of 30.
Yeah.
And then there's a big gap. And then you can have really old women, you know, who got like really Crohn's.
Yeah.
But anything in the middle doesn't exist.
Definitely, as women, I think we are forgotten during that time, and I mean, it's not just workplace, it's just everywhere. I'm far more aware of being invisible than I ever used to be. And you're right. I mean, we're in between that stage where you're either really young and lovely or you're really old, and that's it. But what happens to the woman in between? And honestly, I mean, well, we know this. We've got so much to offer.
Yeah.
We're kick-ass warriors.
Yeah.
So someone just has to write a book about that.
Yeah. And, you know, that comes back to what we're doing here with this journey, with the next stage for you is in really colouring in, if you like, and drawing in the lines of all the blossoming brilliance that is revealed to you now, that you know is there, instead of the focus we're taught, that we inculcate for ourselves, of everything that effing goes wrong in menopause, everything we can't do.
Yeah.
We get too focused on that, and that's like next week we'll be talking about can't versus the can. And so in a way we become our own worst enemies. We go, you're right, I can't do it, can I? You're right. I'm bloody lame, I can't remember things. You're right. Just because we can't remember a word, we think our whole, you know, we buy into the story.
We write off everything. Yeah. Oh no, I'm seeing this whole menopause movement as a very empowering thing, and it was really a call to attend to what's going on, what was wrong, and make what's wrong right again.
Yeah. So anyway, but and the other things that I got coming, I'm going to be doing a series of case studies, and some I'll use from. I usually anonymize my case studies, but I'd clearly like, if I can, to use your story as a case study, and I can alter it and adapt it. I don't have to use your name or anything, but I'd like to be able to use.
Absolutely, go for it. Anything that helps other people and is relatable, other women, and is going to be of use and relatable, go for it. Yeah,
thank you.
Nothing I'm going to hide, definitely.
Nice. Right,
cool. So it's not Friday.
Yes, Friday.
Do you know that all day I knew it was Tuesday? Absolutely all day, until about 10 minutes before I sat down with you, and I thought, I wonder if I'm going to want to wee during hypnotherapy. I must go to the loo. But I do know it's Tuesday, and I did know it was Tuesday, and I still know it's Tuesday.
But you planted a little seed that you just don't want to pull up.
No, I think I just like those little hypnotherapy sessions. Really like them.
Well, we are very fortunate. Very fortunate that we're able to do those, because
I'm very fortunate. Being the only one in the group has been a blessing, has been an absolute blessing, of which I am eternally grateful, and I know how lovely and lucky I am. So I've relished every moment of it.
Yeah, you don't know all the favors that are stacking up.
It's all about me.
Yeah, I'll be calling them in.
You're going to hit me with it. So, Rose, what are you doing next week? Thank you. That was lovely.
You're welcome. So I'll see you Friday.
See you Friday.
Yeah, have a good day at the garden.
At 10.
At 10.
And then next Tuesday and the Tuesday after, we're doing 1 o'clock.
1 o'clock.
Okay, cool. Got that.
Yeah.
Thanks, Shirley.
You're welcome.
Enjoy your editing and your writing, and you're almost there, hanging
Yeah.
by your fingertips.
Yeah, I am. Yeah, I'll be happy when I'm happy with it, which
Yeah.
which I will be. I'm not overly perfectionist, but you know, it does need a bit of spit and polish.
Well, of course, everyone's book needs a bit of.
Mm.
That's the process.
Yeah.
Mm.
Okay.
All right. On that note, bye.
Bye.